Hey Star Warriors, Geek here. Welcome to Star Wars Nitpicking. I've been told dozens of times that some of my recurring complaints about the saga might be described as whiny and pedantic. I'm gonna take this undesirable skill of mine and put it to good use. In this series, I hope to educate the average fan on the details of these films that they keep getting wrong. Have you ever come across a comment and seen such a botched misspelling of a Star Wars character's name? Or been watching a YouTube video and hear a terrible mispronunciation of a common Star Wars phrase?
Unutapo.
That's what I'm talking about. In this episode, we're looking at spelling and pronunciation. Let's start with one of the more common mistakes. C-3PO is a prissy protocol droid who would definitely be offended if he learned that you spelled his name with a 0 at the end.
How rude!
Listen carefully to how he introduces himself.
And I am C-3PO.
I'm pretty sure that was C-3PO and not C-3P0. Sure, O can mean 0, but in the case of droids, it always means the letter. It's a very common mistake, and I won't fault anyone for it. Just try to use the correct spelling in the future. That's not all, though. The hyphen is almost always misplaced. It's definitely there, so that's wrong. Try again, it's not in the middle. There you go. Fans make this mistake all of the time, most likely because R2-D2's name has the hyphen in the middle, prompting people to just copy that rule over to 3PO. But again, let's listen to how you say his name. C-3PO. You see? There's a slight pause after the C. C-3PO. If you had the hyphen in the middle, his name would be pronounced C-3PO. Not quite the same. The last thing to look at with 3PO is his phonetic spelling, which is perfectly acceptable. I've been told countless of times that you can't spell his name like that. But look at scripts, novels, websites, trading cards, or even Wikipedia, and you'll see that C-3PO is almost more common than C-3PO. And if you call him exclusively 3PO, you can never spell it out as 3PO. His nickname must be spelled out phonetically. 3PO means absolutely nothing, while THREEPIO would refer to Goldenrod himself. And now if you look over at R2-D2, the same rules apply. This time the hyphen is in the middle, and his phonetic name is spelled as R2-D2. Even amongst the people that know to use the phonetic spelling of his name almost always add an extra unnecessary E into the D2. So let's consider these very simple rules next time we talk about our favorite droid duo. This next character is unfortunately notorious for the countless misspellings and mispronunciations of her name. Princess Leia hasn't fared well in the field of nitpicking. Correct spelling seems to be impossible for most fans. All of these names that are flashing on the screen right now are actual ways that I've seen her name spelled. Only one of these can be right. Do you see it? Say it with me, Nerf herders. L-E-I-A. Leia. Now listen to how I say her name. Leia. Granted, this may seem hard to grasp for some fans, seeing as they say it multiple different ways in the films.
Princess Leia.
Leia!
Princess Leia, sir.
Leia. Princess Leia.
Sure, Leia. Mistress Leia.
Leia.
When I hear multiple pronunciations of a name in these movies, I always make the final decision by listening to how the characters themselves say their name.
Leia.
And Leia isn't the only one whose name is pronounced multiple different ways in these films.
We'll find Han. Han will have that shield down. Come on, Han, old buddy, don't let me down.
It sounds like Han.
Let's do a chest to save Han.
For those of you who don't know already, let's let Han take it away.
Han Solo. I'm captain of the Millennium Falcon.
And it's definitely not Han's. That's an unforgivable mistake. General Grievous is another one of the many victims of ill-informed fans. Let me make it a little clearer. Merriam-Webster defines Grievous as causing great sadness, suffering, or pain. Very serious or severe. Yes, it's a real word that basically means being bad. Very creative there, George. But let's see how Merriam-Webster defines grievous. It seems that word doesn't exist. I think I've made my point. General Grievous, not General Grievous, please. And while we're at it, it's pronounced mischievous or mischievous, not mischievous. But I digress. The father figure of the Star Wars saga also can't catch a break. The name Anakin Skywalker is misspelled many different ways, the most common being A-N-N-I-K-A-N. The correct spelling is A-N-A-K-I-N. Quite simple.
It's a trap.
Yes, it is, Admiral. How do you pronounce it again? Akbar isn't a name I'm really used to being mispronounced, until it became a big deal in 2014 when Conan O'Brien called the Mon Calamari soldier Akbar. Long story short, his show ended up making fun of nerds. Let's move on. An unusual misspelling of the greatest movie villain of all time, Darth Vader, tends to mix up its vowels. I've seen Vador pretty often, and there's a famous vintage button that has the words Darth Vadar lives on it. The correct spelling is of course V-A-D-E-R. Moving away from characters and onto species, I want to look at everyone's favorite co-pilot, Chewbacca. Or Chewbacca if you're Peter Mayhew. The Wookiees are one of the most well-known pop culture creatures, but their names are often misspelled. As far as I can tell, this notion branches from the comedic phrase, "a Wookiee ate my cookie," where you'd want to match the spelling so they both end with only one E. But you'd be wrong. The correct spelling of Wookiee is W-O-O-K-I-E-E. This misconception is extremely common. It becomes even more confusing when even Google tries to correct it to the wrong spelling. Let it be known, the Wookiee people can no longer be oppressed. Free the E. And while we're on the topic of Wookiees, Chewbacca's nickname Chewie ends with I-E, not a Y. I'm sure you all know this species. You know, the strangely colored aliens with the long dangly things on their heads. These have plagued Star Wars fans for decades. Friendships have been destroyed, angry letters written, and copies of films burned over the pronunciation of their species' name. In fact, this is the first nitpick on this list that I've abused hundreds of times. For that, I will give myself a nitpick badge of shame. As this series goes on, I'll make sure to count how many of these nitpicks I used to mess up on myself. I used to call them Twi'leks. In reality, the correct pronunciation is Twi'lek. However, this point is easily refutable, seeing how multiple characters in the Clone Wars pronounce it Twi'lek. Dave Filoni says that he did this so fans could choose whichever pronunciation they want, and I'm gonna take that opportunity. Twi'leks themselves may pronounce it Twi'lek, but I never will. I guess that makes me a bit hypocritical making this video, but let's just move on. Yeah, let's forget about it. Planets are another commonly mispronounced and misspelled topic. Chewbacca's home planet of Kashyyyk definitely looks odd when you see it written out. Some write it with one Y, some write it with two, but the correct spelling has 3 Ys. It's strange to type out, but that's how it's spelled. On pronunciation, there are only 2 ways to say it, but they are both very different. Kashyyyk is the most widely accepted movie-accurate version, but the first time we ever heard the name of the Wookiee planet was in the Oscar-worthy Star Wars Holiday Special.
Due to suspected rebel activity on the Kashyyyk planet.
I'm not sure if they pronounced it Kashyyyk because they had no idea what Kashyyyk was in 1978, or if it was because this actor just read his lines once, stood in front of a green screen and got paid. It's rare to hear anyone pronounce Kashyyyk this way, but it is possible. The pronunciation of this swamp planet is split between original trilogy fans and newer generations. If you listen to the name in the movie, you'll hear Dagobah.
You will go to the Dagobah system.
Dagobah system.
We're going to the Dagobah system.
Yeah, that's it. Dagobah.
But the official name of the planet is pronounced Dagobah. Either way works, but spelling is key. Dagobah is spelled with an A, not an E. If you pronounce it Dagobah, at least spell it D-A-G-O-B-A-H. In memory of Princess Lala's home planet. Let's try to spell it right. A-L-D-E-R-A-A-N. There are always 2 A's. Don't drop one of them. Pronunciation is a little more debatable. In the films, they switch between Alderaan and Alderaan. The more widely accepted way to say it is Alderaan, but Alderaan works too. This last planet is one that I am ashamed to put on this list. Do you remember when Obi-Wan visits that crater planet in episode 3, where he battles General Grievous? I didn't even know the name of this planet until I started looking into the lore a little bit more. But I had only ever read it in an article. I never heard it in the movie.
He's hiding in the Utapau system.
Palpatine thinks General Grievous is on Utapau.
I'm the chairman of Utapau.
Okay, maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention. Regardless, I ended up mispronouncing it in 2 different videos.
Spinning its way into spot number 7 is Obi-Wan and Grievous's battle on Utapau. New worlds were also built into this game like Megiddo, Coruscant, Felucia, Utapau.
I have no idea why I thought it was Utapau? It's a pretty ridiculous way to read that name. For the record, I still get hundreds of comments and corrections on this pronunciation, so I'll clarify here. This is pronounced Utapau. Utapau. Alright, let's not embarrass myself anymore. I have a certain credibility to uphold here. Moving on to our last category. Vehicles and ships are heavy victims of misspellings and mispronunciations. The most iconic ship in the franchise, the Millennium Falcon, often loses an L or an N in the middle, but it needs to be doubled up on both. Also, it's pronounced Millennium, not Millennium, which is surprisingly more common than you'd think.
What the hell is an aluminum Falcon?
The very first vehicle that we ever saw in the franchise is the Rebel Blockade Runner. This ship actually has a name. That's what its name looks like, and I want to be a little bit careful when I pronounce this here because I've pronounced it incorrectly all my life. I used to pronounce it Tantive 4. But this isn't the only incorrect pronunciation. I've heard Tantive, Tantive, and Tantive, but none of them are right. This vehicle is pronounced Tantive 4. This has been made clear in the 1981 Star Wars radio drama.
The Tantive 4 was to deliver medical supplies and spare parts to the High Council of Raltier.
And by Pablo Hidalgo, the maintainer of the cohesive Star Wars canon at Lucasfilm. The name actually comes from a pre-existing word, Tantive, which means at a gallop. This is one that I've never really heard pronounced correctly, but let's try to get it right from here on out. Tantive. And to wrap this episode up, the last mispronounced Star Wars name in today's episode are the Elephant Walkers from The Empire Strikes Back. They are one of the most iconic images from the franchise, but their name is often mixed up. The official way to pronounce their name is AT-AT, an acronym for All-Terrain Armored Transport, but most fans tend to look for a more convenient way to say their name, dubbing these machines AT-ATs. I have personally always called them AT-ATs, but I don't think I should really be faulted for that. Alright, fine, but the honest truth is that AT-AT is the more widely accepted term. Unfortunately, it doesn't work quite the same way for ATSTs, seeing how calling them ATs sounds pretty ridiculous. So you can just stick to chicken walkers for them. Overall, I'd say that AT-ATs are up to your own interpretation, but to avoid getting a mob of angry Ewoks at your door tonight, you might want to clarify that you know they are officially called AT-ATs. So to recap, this is C-3PO and R2-D2. Princess Leia is pronounced Leia, Han Solo should never be called Hans, Grievous is mischievous, Anakin and Vader, Admiral Akbar isn't Akbar, Twi'lek's not Twi'leks, double up the E's in Wookiee, triple up the Y's in Kashyyyk, Dagobah or Dagobah, but always with an A, Alderaan with 2 A's, and never pronounce Utapau Utapo, Millennium Falcon, Tantive 4, and finally, AT-AT. I hope you all learned something new and relieved your inner pedantic nitpicking. If you have any names that you've heard misspelled or pronounced incorrectly, or have a totally different topic of Star Wars related pet peeves, please tell me in the comments. Maybe they'll end up in one of the next videos. Subscribe to Star Geek for weekly Star Wars content. If you enjoyed the video or learned something new, please shoot that like button at light speed. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by clicking the links in the description, and you can check out my last video, a brand new news update, if you just click on the thumbnail. You can also watch my opinion on George Lucas. Until we meet again in a galaxy far, far away, this has been Star Geek. Let me tell you a story. Two droids, C-3PO and R2-D2, were walking through the Wookiee forest on Kashyyyk, when suddenly General Grievous swooped down from his AT-AT and began attacking Chewie. Luckily, they were saved by the last surviving member of Alderaan, Princess Lala, who arrived in the Tantive IV with Admiral Akbar. But not for long, because Darth Vader flew all the way from Dagobah after slaying some Twi'leks to finish off the gang. At the last moment, Han Solo flew in on the Millennium Falcon and saved the day by relieving that Vadar's true identity was Anakin Shyhopper. I hope that after today's lesson, that story hurt to listen to. You have been trained well, my Padawan. May the FARCE be with you.